Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are going to be looking at the latest version of multi-tool from Leatherman. Now unfortunately this was a limited production run of only 500 and I missed out on it. This is something that I would very much have loved to have had in my collection. Unfortunately they only did a 500 run of them, and so they just flew off the shelves and they were gone. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the design concepts in here and why I find this particular multi-tool intriguing. Now the price on this one went for $200, but if you go over to eBay, they're putting them right back up for sale on eBay, and they are fetching a very pretty penny. They're well up over $600 for most of them that are listed on eBay, and I imagine there's days left on those auctions. I imagine they're going to go quite a bit higher than that. I doubt that I'm going to spend that kind of money for this particular multi-tool, even though I do find it incredibly fascinating. Now, if I get a decent deal at some point down the road, then I may very well pull the trigger on one. But I can see these prices going well over $1,000, and I'm just simply not going to pay that for this. So a few things that are kind of cool about this. First of all, let's scroll down a little bit. And one thing about this tool, this is Tim Leatherman's original concept design for what he was trying to sell or trying to get investors interested in. Actually, what he was trying to do was just sell the idea. He was hoping to get his $1 million and then move on to other things. Well, it didn't work out that way. And thank goodness for his perseverance, because it took him years and years and years to finally bring the multi-tool as we know it today onto the market. Now, what originally got released from Leatherman was the pocket survival tool, which is sort of similar to his Mr. Crunch in some ways, but the Mr. Crunch has a unique feature to it, that being the fact that it can transform from a standard plier to a needle nose plier. And now, while I don't know how viable his original concept would have been, how well it would have worked, I'm sure that they could have worked out the kinks for it to make it a pretty nice tool in the end. The fact that Leatherman has used the free series of tools to bring this idea to fruition is very intriguing. I like the fact that it goes from a needle nose to a regular plier. There's just been times where that would have been an awesome concept. In fact, if they could take this plier and somehow bring that into multi-tools that they already have in their lineup, and who knows, maybe Leatherman is just putting a test bubble out there to see if this is something that their clientele would be interested in. But the ability to go from a full set of pliers where you can get in tight and close with a regular set of pliers, and then to be able to transform that into needle nose, so you basically have the best of both worlds. I don't know that from a viability standpoint that it would be a great idea. It depends on how well those needle nose portions would lock in, and then you also have to think about the fact that not being a forged set of pliers that's going to be integrated with the needle nose, they're not going to be as strong, and they're probably going to have some type of movement to them. So they're not going to be they're going to be a very big compromise. Now, multi-tools in and of themselves are already a compromise, but when you go adding on features like this, then it brings it out of the realm of being usable to being more gimmicky. Now, that all depends on how well the engineers at Leatherman designed this concept. So from what I can tell, and not having one or having not seen them yet, it appears that the needle nose portions will slip off and then rotate out of the way back into the housing. I don't know that to be true. They may be separate pieces altogether where they would snap into place. But if they were to just slip up and then pivot out of the way back into the handles, where you could then have just the regular pliers, or when you need them, they pivot up, lock down onto the pliers to give you a set of needle nose, that's a very interesting concept. That's a very, very interesting concept and could be useful for a lot of different people. Now, because this is based more on the free series, I find it more gadgety than I do useful because I'm not a huge fan of the free series for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I'm definitely not a fan of the magnetic architecture in order to hold down the tools because in the industries that I work in, working around metal dust and particulate all the time, that is a bad combination. And especially when you're dealing with stuff like the file, if you're using that to work on metal. Now, a couple of things that they did add to this particular tool that I do like very much. First of all, the scissors are one of those tools that come in the free series, so that they're pretty decent. They're not quite on par with the surge scissors, but nonetheless, they're pretty effective. What I do like that they added in the micro driver here, which they have a redesigned micro driver holder, which may end up seeing its way into other multi-tools down the line. This is a lot thinner in profile, it appears, than what comes with tools that already have the micro driver holder, such as the Charge and the Wave. I think the Blast had one. There's been various multi-tools over the years that have had them. The next thing that they've added to this one that makes it different is the fact that Leatherman, for the first time ever, has finally added a chisel. Now, we don't get a real good view from the pictures that they have on their site here as to what the cut profile is on that particular chisel. But the fact that they're including one in there may bode well for the future, because that is something that I think that they definitely could have added to any number of multi-tools, especially the Surge, where I feel that could be incredibly useful. I'm not a big fan of the awl. It works decently on the free series of tools, and you get the same tool on the Crunch. I don't like that they put the little micro driver tip up there. Now, if you're not using it all and you just need the little screwdriver tip, then yeah, it's probably pretty nice to have that on there. I'm also not a big fan of the free series for the fact that it doesn't have the interchangeable bit system. Rather, they give you just your standard bits. And the Phillips really suffers for this, because this is the same type of number 1, number 2 Phillips that they use on cheaper versions of their multi-tools like the Wingman and Sidekick. It does a decent job, but it is definitely not great, and it doesn't give you the ability to go to a 3D model, like a 3D driver, like you'll have with any driver that either has a truss Phillips screwdriver where you can also add an adapter to it, or the standard receiver or bit carrier that they have on multi-tools like the Wave, Charge, and any number of others as well. I like the ability to have the bit exchanger, because then you can go with an extension and get a lot more reach, and by incorporating different aftermarket bits, you come up with some very good combinations that make for a really nice screwdriver to have on board with you. So a few things that I like about this. I'm really intrigued about the plier design here. I find that really fascinating, and I'm really kind of glad that they brought this to market, if only in a limited edition run. It would be nice to be able to get my hands on this one to really go through it and see how well or how viable an option that really is, and whether or not they could implement that into future multi-tools. It does come with the replaceable wire and hardwire cutters. Now, the thing with this one is, we're just going to go back here to the plier head. You'll notice that because the needle nose have to slip up over the pliers, the regular pliers, you'll notice that you'll lose, there's a little bit of a shelf right here where you kind of lose the ability to use the regular pliers while the needle noses pliers are attached. Now, once you take them off, you have full access to the regular plier version, which is very nice and could be very useful. It's a lot of compromise, but if it meshes well and it seats well and solidly, then it could be a viable option moving forward for a lot of other tools. I definitely wish they could have done this outside of the free series. But then again, the free series is really the only tool that Leatherman has where it has all outside accessible tools. And so that's one of the main benefits to this one, is you don't have to open up the tool in order to get to a lot or all of your interior tools. So from that standpoint, it's probably better that they went into the free series. Honestly, I don't think this particular multi-tool would be, even if they put this in a full production run where it became part of the lineup, I don't think this would be the type of tool that would necessarily be useful. It's more gimmicky or more gadgety, I would think. But then it's hard to say that offhand, because until you really have it in your hands and you're actually able to use it, you just don't know how well it's come together. If anything else, though, it is an incredibly innovative concept that Mr. Leatherman came up with some 45 years ago, 46 years ago. It's a nice concept, and I'm glad to see a couple. I'm especially glad to see a chisel. The chisel being in the lineup or in the tool set for the Mr. Crunch lends me to believe that it's possible it might start seeing its way into other versions of their multi-tools. At least I'm hopeful of that, because I think a chisel is one thing that they definitely can add to their multi-tools to make them a lot more viable. And for those that like the little micro driver, the redesigned holder for those could make its way into other multi-tools as well. At any rate, this is the Mr. Crunch. A shout out to Mr. Tim Leatherman for his original design. I would love to get my hands on one of these, but I doubt that I'm going to pay the exorbitant prices that people are asking for these on eBay right now. If I find the right one at the right price, I'll probably get it, but I'm not holding my breath. My name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one.